welcome to another episode of Chicago's Intellectuals Podcast. I am the kid, Rod Allen. He is young Flizz. We are here. What's going on, brother?
Man, it's beautiful, man. Love the introduction. Glad to be here. Things going good right about now, man. It's summertime in the shop. Lot going on, man. Lot going on. So I'm looking forward to getting into it, man. How you been?
I've been good, man. I've been good. I'm a little bit tired, busy as always, but that comes with it.
Yes, sir.
It makes me think of one of those acronyms that asks the question of, what is it about you that makes you great? And my answer is always, I'm willing to do the things that some are not willing to do. Okay. And that includes sacrifice and accountability. So yeah, man.
Hey.
Yeah.
I like that. Like that.
So, man, I was reflecting and just thinking about the reason that we started this podcast, how we first started, and how it kind of like helped to get us through the pandemic. Okay. How it kind of, and I specifically remember that we would always be talking, right? Yeah. And our conversation basically teetered around 4 specific subject matter, right? One being culture, right? Another being our ambition, / our professional careers, professional identity. We always end up talking about music. Yeah. Right? It would sometimes be coupled with reading or maybe sports. Mm-hmm. And we always told these fascinating stories about things that we've gone through during the process of our lives, right? And that's how we came up with the crowd favorite. Bring some weed, I got a story to tell, right?
Yes, sir.
And so just reflecting on when we started the podcast, because the world doesn't know that we started this podcast at the height of the pandemic. And to that you say what?
Man, yeah. As you were, posing that question, it's funny because I had to, one of my boys, man, he would be considered a Chicago intellectual. He bought a farm, and he invited some of us, up to his farm, and brothers, many of them I knew, just from doing the work, and one of the things we talked about was the pandemic, right? And bro, what I found very, very interesting was that there was it was 9 or 10 brothers, right? Okay. 9 or 10 brothers. As we're all kind of like sharing like a little bit of our professional journey, right? Mm-hmm. What I found interesting was that almost to a man, almost everyone, I think except maybe one bro, had increased their position as far as they either made a professional, either a career change, or there was some sort of increase that happened in their life, man. So circling back to me, I think two things I want to point out during the pandemic, and let's be clear, world, it was a scary time for everyone. It was a scary time for everyone. And we all respond to fear and things that are going on in a lot of different ways. But what I found interesting was that people like me and you and others made some positive moves during that time, even though fear was part of the experience. We didn't let fear cripple us.
Yeah.
See, sometimes, fear can leave you, man, paralyzed and bound, and you cover up. Sometimes you need to, you got to,
Debilitated.
Exactly. It can be very debilitating. And I think there was some of that for me too. That was them periods, man, where, it was a lot of remote work going on. I was probably not as productive, but like most things, and I love circling this back to Black people in America. We have adaptive strategies many times that have been cultivated over generations, right? The ability to deal with very oppressive situations, oppressive times, and just, surviving, but in some instances, thriving, right? So I was able to make a job change, man, do some things, man. A lot of things happen, right? But what I'll say to that simply is that, man, at all times, man, we must stay ready, so we ain't got to get ready.
So we don't have to get ready.
That's a common thing, man. So I'm gonna leave it right there. What you say to it, bro?
Yeah, man. I mean, I think you're right and exact. I heard you say that a brother bought a farm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Wow. And this brother is actually from Chicago.
Man, this brother from Chicago. This brother is an OG, man. Been through a lot of urban, street things. Brother changed his life. Yeah. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. And not only did he do that, he in turn help others. Kind of in that same situation, be able to change their life, man. So me. I look at the laws, 3 laws: the laws of belief, the laws of attraction, and the laws of expectancy. And when you had that working in your life, I've seen it without failure. I've seen it work in your life, my life, right? We able to do some amazing things. Yeah, man. So the brother got a WestSide brother, on the farm, Joe.
Yeah, that's cool.
It was a tripped out experience, man. You know me, man. I packed up some bug spray, all that, but it was a good time, man.
Yeah. So yeah, man. I mean, I will say to you, my neighbors, they in their backyard, they party, and I can hear their music, and the music is they play a house, and this groove is so tough. I'm just like, you know what? We're not going to even end this recording. We're just going to keep it moving. If the audience hear it, if the world hears it, then you just get to Chicago, baby.
Hey, look, man, if social media don't, you know what I'm saying? We ain't got no problem either.
You just getting a taste of Chicago. That's all that is.
That's a fact.
Yeah, man. I remember, when we first started to record. In retrospect, I believe that for both of us, but I know more specifically for me, that recording this podcast and having these conversations and having the guests on kind of helped to navigate some of that fear.
Yes.
Right. See, yes. I was always taught that true courage rests in your ability to face fear in spite of fear itself. Meaning, although we know that the fear exists, I keep moving forward in the face of it, right? And I think that's pretty much what we did, man. But yeah, I've had some pretty significant things happen, man. With this podcast being one for the both of us. I'm still teaching. I've been funded for a PhD program that I'm about to start in 30 days. And
congratulations, man.
Yeah, man. I appreciate that. There's a lot of work coming up. And just so many things, man. But ultimately, right now, where I stand today, is in the position of just being grateful, a position of gratitude, because of the reception that we receive, from our audience and friends, family, the world, in regards to this podcast, man. I think this was something that hit a little bit different because the window of opportunity was wide open, and we had the wherewithal to go ahead and take advantage of that window of opportunity. And so, yeah, man, I'm just really grateful, man. But I will tell you one thing. As I reflect, I know for a fact that during a lot of those early recordings that I was suffering brain fog. Okay. Now, I don't know if you remember, but I had COVID before COVID was announced to the world. Didn't know what it was. It was just a real bad cold, unlike anything that I had experienced before in my life. And it happened in January, right? In March, they announced COVID, right? I went to my primary care physician and they told me that I had an upper respiratory infection. But this was unlike anything that I had ever experienced before, right? And by the time they announced it, I was getting better, but the brain fog was lingering, right? And so you can only imagine how challenging it was to go into the classroom and do my best to extend, the course material to the students and to come on the podcast and, interact. Well, I'm kind of a people person. So it became quite the challenge. And in retrospect, I think we did a pretty good job, right? It got better as time went on, but I think we did a pretty good job. Yeah, I don't think you knew that.
No, I didn't. And as you, first of all, man, is, one thing I've learned to do is to trust my gut, my spirit, my intuition, my body, right? Because COVID has presented some, I've had COVID too, I've had it twice. So I remember doing right before it got announced, I was at a week-long conference in Oakland. Remember I was checking in with you about that. And I'm noticing, and I don't know if it was because it was the West Coast or what, my history gets a little foggy, but I think I recall maybe one of the first cases being in California or something. But what I do know is that, there would be trickles of conversations. And at the time it was being framed that something from Asia, had kind of like, remember, let's remember, we have to think about things like bird flu, all of these things that happened before. So in a way, I'm kind of thinking like it's something like that, like something that's going on, right? That's definitely need to be addressed, but like it wouldn't hit home. That's kind of how I was looking at it, but how wrong I was, you know what I'm saying? It was devastating and horrible, right? And one thing I want to do, like lift up though, is that just like I think it's an ancestral quality to connect with your base during times of difficulty and struggle. And that's what I'm saying to you, brother, like we're each other's base. We've been that way for well over a decade, And I also go with, man, if it ain't broke, don't fix it. You know what I'm saying? So I just leaned in, man, to my creative people, man, with you right at the top of the list. And man, we needed to talk about this stuff, man. Yeah. And that's really was some of the underpinnings of Chicago's Electoral Podcast, was that it was during a very difficult time, but we were steadfast that we were not going to let this difficult time kind of stifle, right? Yeah. We may not be able to go out and be outside and kick it like normal, right? Okay, cool. we may not be able to do a lot of other things, but you can't prevent me from creating. So that's what you can tell to the world, to Chicago. It's so many creators, man. I see it every day. You know, don't let nobody stop, man. Don't just keep moving. Find a way.
And talk about it, we did, right? and you know,
man.
the one thing that I really liked was during those early episodes, we would always ask our guests how they were doing.
Yeah.
You know, in the midst of the pandemic and how it had affected them and or their families.
Yeah.
And we were getting some of those same responses. You know, I remember guests talking about the fact that, you know, the pandemic was bittersweet, just like we're saying. It helps a lot of people to have the time to get closer to their family in ways that they probably wouldn't have otherwise had an opportunity to, because we were all home, right? And I know that was the case for me. And in terms of using that time wisely and allowing that time to benefit our creativity. Yeah. I remember this specific episode where we had Dr. Franklin on, right?
Yeah.
Franklin, and she hit on that. I think that was probably part of her story to tell. It was like, we've gotten away from our creativity, and you know, we're doing these things for these big box companies, and we're not even recognized for it. You know, and I'm paraphrasing, but I'm sure you remember that. You know, and so you're right and exact, man. When it comes to that, man, I'm really happy, man. This podcast was born out of that, right?
Yeah, man.
Many other things were born out of that.
Yeah, man.
You know, and so I'm looking forward to moving steadfast, man. You know, yeah, we're still in our infancy, but we're like a baby Popeye. And we're eating our spinach.
Hey man, I couldn't. Hey, that's right on. That's a fact too. And like what I find like really interesting is, man, you know, because during that time it gave me a lot of time to reflect. And what I reflected on was that I am of the belief and of the opinion, man, that you know greatness is born of struggle.
Yeah.
You know, and I can't speak to other cultural folks' experience in their history, but I know as Black people, man, Black people in America, and it's probably Black people in general, because I'm learning more about how Black people are treated around the world.
Around the world, yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I do believe that like during these like tough times, you know, you use these adaptive strategies, you know, you keep being creative, imaginative, innovative, you know what I'm saying? And you'll be great. You know, you can be great. You have the opportunity to be great. You know what I'm saying? You know, and what I love about all of that is that, and where y'all will see, you know, those episodes, right? So you know, you gonna see, man, we talked about it. Man, we add stuff out. Hey, it is what it is, you know what I'm saying? Yeah. And we supported each other, you know, as well as our guests, and tried to be open towards building a community, right, of other people who still wanted to achieve, right, be of service, help people, and things like that. You know, and that's what we do. And like I said, like my brother said, you know, he's now, you know, embarking on his PhD career. You know, I made the switch to philanthropy, you know, working for a foundation. So, man, you know, big things can happen, man, during tough times, man. You just got to believe in yourself. You got to believe in yourself and stay with it, man.
Yeah, man. It's just amazing to me, man. I think you hit the nail on the head. You know, our culture is born of a persevering spirit. Yeah. Right. Yeah. Okay. So long before you or I ever existed, our people were creating because they had to, because they were forced to, right?
Absolutely.
There was no equality. There was no agency. We know that discrimination existed, Jim Crow and all of the above, right? And our people always found a way. They always found a way. And so I think, you know, just in the same vein as our culture, you know, we were able to do the same thing, but, you know, we just had a lot more resources than they did, right? We had a lot more resources. We were able to come up with something that's beneficial to a broader range of people, right? A broader range of people. And I'm just so happy, man, with the responses that we've been getting. I've been getting calls from all over the country, bro. I haven't got any calls from abroad yet, but I get my first call from abroad regarding this podcast. I think I'm gonna be amazed. I'll be blown away. But until then, we're gonna keep pushing. You know, we're just gonna keep pushing, man. Let me ask you this. What was some of the music that helped you to get through that time?
Man, shit. Look. Now, brother, you know, finna relax, let his head down. You know, music definitely was you know, it was the ointment, right? You know what I'm saying? To get me through. I've always loved music, you know what I'm saying? Being DJ and all. Some of the music that I recall helping me get
here. Take your time here.
yeah. I'm trying to think, man. So I remember. Well, if I do the tail end, I would say Kendrick, right? Like Mr. Morale, Big Steppers, things like that. But if I recall correctly, some of the people I listened to in the earlier days, and some of this is new music, some of this is like ancestral music, I would say, right? So me being raised, in the church and things like that, man. I remember going back to listening to like, sometimes, man, canned spiritual singers, man, Mahalia Jackson, then more contemporary, I would listen to Solange, shout out to Solange, good music, Cleo Soul. There's a group called Salt, across the pond in London, the UK. I was glad it made its way to over here in my ears. Man, then I just started going with what I call, man, my ride or die crew, man, like people that are my artists that define the struggle. You know what I'm saying? Keep me charged.
I know
where
this is
I'm
going.
saying?
Yeah,
You already know where I'm going. So, I had my Public Enemy. Shout out to PE, Fear of a Black Planet. Fear of a Black Planet has always given me that good balance of feeling this surge of Black liberation and empowerment, and also like this, hey, we finna call you out on this bullshit. You know what I'm saying? Ice Cube, you know what I'm saying? The West Coast, you know what I'm saying? And then I kept in Chicago too, shout out to Kanye. Donda was released during this time. That was, in my opinion, that was a masterpiece, a sonic, joint. Man, I'm gonna leave it there. Those were some of the people, man, that I was listening to. I know I'm missing some people, man. Shout out to Internet, Steve Lacy, man, there's a lot of people, man. What about you? Who were you checking?
Yeah, man, I know, see, world, this guy here, this guy, he's really good because he kept his composure. I know that I caught him by surprise. See, because we were communicating all throughout the flick. All throughout the pandemic, we were communicating. We would exchange music. Many times, I would like recommend music to Flizz, and Flizz will sometimes take a little while to listen to it.
Yeah.
Like then he'll come back, he'll reroute on me, right? He'll reroute on me, and we'll have a discussion about it. But some of the people that I was listening to, man, and I went deep into my musical library. I remember, man, pulling out that Earth, Wind, and Fire, and I'm talking the vinyl. I was playing vinyl.
Yeah, yes, sir.
I pulled out this Earth, Wind, and Fire, man. The Earth, Wind, and Fire joint. I pulled out LTD. Okay.
Yeah.
Listened to a lot of Cleo Soul and Salt.
Yeah.
Blue Note Remastered.
Yeah.
Listen to a whole lot of Anderson .Paak. I listened to a lot of Anderson .Paak.
Ooh.
You know, Bad, Not Good. Listen to a lot of Bad, Not Good, a lot of Portishead. Opened up that Diggable Planets.
Yeah.
You know, I got back into some Coltrane stuff, some Mal stuff, Freddie Hubbard. I was all over the place. Yeah. But it helped to get me through, man. And then toward the end, I went heavy Freddie Gibbs. Heavy Freddie Gibbs, even heavier Benny the Butcher.
Woo! Shout out to Griselda.
Yes. And of course, man, just a whole lot of Conway. And all of these albums, all of this music, I have on vinyl, right? So I was listening in mono. I'm listening, and you know, even went back to reading the liner notes, man. You know, went back to reading the liner notes, and it was just an enjoyable time. I've actually kept it up for the most part. I'm not listening as much as I did during the pandemic because, of course, we were in all the time and we had much more time. You know.
Oh, I thought when you said I kept it up, I thought you were talking about your vinyl collection. I was like, you ain't got to tell me because this man shops for vinyl. Yeah, anyway, man.
This guy, man.
It's crazy.
No, but I was speaking in terms of listening to vinyl.
Yep.
Right. I still listen to my vinyl, although I don't have as much time in the house as I did during the height of the pandemic. Right. But yeah, I just really got back into some things. Soul to Soul. I pulled up the Soul to Soul album, man.
Yes. Sounds of Blackness.
Yes.
Yeah. Stuff like that.
Yeah. It was crazy, man.
Yeah. Loose Ends, SOS Band, Marvin Gaye. Oh, and we would be remiss, both of us, I think, if we did not bring up that I think one of our favorite MCs from Queensbridge.
Oh, Nas?
He released, I want to say, all 3 King's Disease during the pandemic. I believe.
Well, the third one was released lately. The third one was released after the pandemic is supposed to be over. Let's hopefully let's hope it's over, right? But yeah, 1 and 2 definitely. 1 and 2 definitely during the pandemic. The third one right after the pandemic. And yeah, man, quite an effort. Quite an effort. Yeah.
Man, him and Hit Boy, shout out to Nas and Hit Boy, man. Keep I love that pairing. Y'all making great music together, you know, Deontay.
You know, something I've always wanted to kind of spar with you about.
Oh shit. Let's go.
Always see where we're both from Chicago. We're both from Chicago. Being from the south side of Chicago. My man Flizz is from the west side of Chicago, born and raised, right?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. What up, Joe? What up, Shot-Town? What up?
Yeah. And we come from kind of different yet similar backgrounds. It's like a complex simplicity in a way, right? Mm-hmm. So I know right on the border of where Flizz lives is Oak Park, right? Mm-hmm. And then on the border of where I grew up is Hyde Park, right? And I always thought about like the similarities of the two, because you have many people from the South Side that might not necessarily frequent an Oak Park, right? And in the same breath, many people from the West Side may not necessarily frequent Hyde Park, right? And so I just thought, you know, with you being so well versed in Oak Park, and you know, you've been running through there all your life, man. Even as a young boy, man, you run through that joint, man. You know, and I was running through, you know, Hyde Park. Most of my friends, man, well, many of my friends, you know, they grew up in Hyde Park. But I have friends from all over, but you know, some of my closest friends, they grew up in Hyde Park, man. And I just thought, man, I'm like, so this guy is from the West Side, man. We went to undergrad together, then we went to grad school together, and we found that we had similar interests. We had some of the same struggles, you know, that many Black guys go through during their teen years and early adulthood, you know, and so we just kind of formed, man, a bond, and it's quite fascinating to me. So I just thought maybe the world might be interested, man. I don't know.
Man, that's what that, you know, I like how at the end you tail off, man, to sound very, you know, curious and mild, man. You know, he don't spy that way, world, just so y'all know, man. We both very passionate, but nah, bro, you bring up a dynamic, ill dynamic, man. You know, that's what we calling this, man. It's a special dynamic, right? Because I think, you know, in a lot of ways, you know, Oak Park to a lot of West Siders was a kind of a safe zone, a sanctuary, right? You know, it wasn't a lot of crime going on. You could kind of, you know, they had a lot of cultural offerings, a lot of things to do, you know, pretty girls, you know, and all of that, right? So
pretty girls, can't leave them pretty girls out.
You got them pretty girls, man. You know, so it was for me, man, a place to explore, right? You know what I'm saying? So one example, I remember that one of my friends, so we played youth football, right? So Oak Park had a youth football league that was like right at the top of the list, right? Like, man, high level. But to be involved in youth football, to play in the Oak Park Youth Football League, you had to be a resident of Oak Park. So we weren't residents of Oak Park, but we were able to find loopholes, right? Okay.
Of course.
And we found, you know, sometimes it'll be, you know, a friend on the block, like my auntie moved to Oak Park, because that's the other thing about Oak Park. And I'm sure around the world, around, you know, around the nation, for Black low middle class, this exists, right? Like there's these target communities, right, that kind of represent that you have kind of climbed the ladder, you know, economically, so you can move to safer, better neighborhoods with more you know, public safety, less violence, you know, more, you know, food stores, you know, just, you know, clean parks and a great place to live and stuff. He decided he had the keys to the recreational center at the park district he was at, right?
He decided, or did he actually have them?
No, he had the keys because he was a supervisor.
Okay, gotcha.
They gave him keys.
He decided to let you guys know.
Yeah. Now this is a summer job. So imagine this: you have this young Black man. He's 16 years old. He's a youth, right? You know, it's a summer job, but sometimes the gift of gab and vocab that some of us have, you know, coming from communities like the WestSide SouthSide. You know, he was very charismatic. You know, that ended up being a trait that ended up getting him in trouble later in life. So, you know, I just want to put that out there. But the point is, man, one night, man, you know, it's late, it's summer. We just kicking it on my porch. He's like, man, he said, I got a brilliant idea. You know, and I said, well, what's that, man? Hey, Floyd, man, load up the tables. We gonna throw a party, man.
Brilliant idea in the hood.
That is not a brilliant idea in Oak Park, right? So because, man, out of nothing but sheer boredom and just kind of like the daring part of me, I was like, I bet. I was like, you know, he got a list of people to call, girls. I got a list. So now we doing like basically what's known now in the world as a pop-up. We doing a pop-up party in Oak Park in the summer, okay? And it's about 9 o'clock, park closed.
Was pop-ups popular then?
No, not at all. No, not at all. It was not, right? So So I ain't saying nothing about no create. I'm just saying, man, what we did, okay? So man, now by the time we finally get it, the party jumping, it's about 10:30. In this very, now we have to talk, you talked about the dynamics of Oak Park, Hyde Park. In this very liberal, progressive, wealthy, right? Suburb, right? That bordered this, bordered Austin, right? On the west side, which was like the opposite of that. Okay? We had good families, middle class probably was the best you would expect from living in Austin. That would be considered really, really good,
What were the percentages? What were the percentages of the middle class family? You remember those demographics?
I think, man, I would say, man, like about a third were middle class. Most were working class, man, like really like in poverty, maybe a couple steps out. They're trying to get to a couple steps before they can get to middle class, right? So anyway, man, we go up there, man, load up, man. We people coming. So we had a group of it's probably about 30 people, man. I'm out there, man, doing the house, man. Capricorn tracks, man, Farley, all this good shit, right? So, bro, it's funny when you're having a good time, right? When you're doing something right, you never really see the police. You never see supervision of the police, right? So all of a sudden, man, there's about, because the park's relatively big, man. So you got like a couple cops with their flashlights. You come out, they backdoored us, right? They come from the back way, Then you have, a couple police just came directly, right? The light wasn't so good, so we didn't really know who they were. So they crept up on us. So it wasn't like flashing lights and everything, right? But once they got up on us, man, and I think that was the day I realized how powerful them damn flashlights are. Like, they're not regular flash, like, they're like military grade. But anyway, my boy loses his job, we get shut down, and here's the interesting thing. I hear one of the officers kept saying, "Where y'all from? Where y'all from?" Right? And nobody answered, right? A couple girls, they mad, man. What y'all bring us up into this bogus part? Woo, woo, woo. I'm trying it, man. Come on, we get it. We gonna go back to the crib, man. We keep playing music, man. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. Right? Knowing that's a lie, because my mama ain't going. You know what I'm saying? But Rod, the thing was, man, was that I remember when we were leaving, one of the old parkers was like, "This is why we don't want y'all here."
Okay. One of the police officers, you mean?
Yes. So what he meant was, we didn't want people, from the west side coming over here, okay? Because kind of like, we know that, trouble, problems, this and that. So what I really saw was just like a mischievous thing. Because when you're 16 years old, that's how you think. They're the 16-year-olds in Oak Park, they thinking the same. They're testing limits. They're trying things. They're exploring the world around them, right? And that's all we was doing, man.
So the question then becomes, does the 16-year-old group of white kids get the same reaction as the 16-year-old group of black children?
That's a great question. Now let's transpose that into areas of. So I remember when I was playing football, learning these differences that you're posing, right? Because there were white football players. Now, we just end up talking about, hey, this is where I've been, this is what we do, this, that, and that. So I remember telling, really like just several members on the team that one of the guys I looked up to had gotten arrested, okay, for smoking a joint.
Yeah.
Now I say looked up to because at that time I'm doing youth football, so I might have been, 13, 14, my guy Marcus was like 17, 18, right? But he was cold. Back in the days, we used to have a shag, you know, finger waves, you know, wearing, you know, decent stuff, man. So anyway, I remember one of my white peers, one of my white football players, man, saying, oh, and he lived in Oak Park. And he said, oh, they just send my sister home when they catch her smoking weed. So
is that an indicator that has happened more than once? They just send my sister home when they catch her? So this has happened multiple times?
So that's what that sounded like to me.
Can you deduce that?
That's what that sounded, yes, absolutely. That's an appropriate deduction. So I felt like, oh, okay, you know, these are just examples, man, of two ways. But quickly, even before the Hyde Park, Oak Park, like cross dynamics, I want to talk about some of the WestSide SouthSide cross dynamics, right? Which I think also align with the Oak Park, Hyde Park thing. So it really music. It goes back to music.
Really?
I was such a house aficionado that it was well known. Westside had plenty of places for house, but people in the house community know. It was well known that the South Side had established several locations that was just the best DJs, the best crowd, the best music in many instances. Some of the best West Side DJs would go, you know, and kind of feel honored that they were able to, you know what I'm saying, get some spend time at some of these locations. You know, this one location is Mendel High School. Okay.
Oh, my goodness.
See what I'm saying? So
yeah. What y'all doing at Mendel, man? What y'all doing?
This the shit that gets you in trouble.
Y'all mess with them girls, man.
So that's a fact. but this is a fact. I'll never forget this. I was 14 years old. My dad had a deuce and a quarter.
Deuce and a quarter. But now the world might not know what a deuce and a quarter is, bro.
Amen.
We must not forget to, you know, we have underground language, we have subcultural language that we use. And some of this language is specific to Chicago. Now, deuce and a quarter is, I think it's pretty much universal around the country, but we do here in Chicago have a subcultural language that the rest of the world might not know about. So
it's a classic card, man, the Electra 225. It's beautiful. It's beautiful. All right. So we know it to be way more than that, but I'm gonna be humble with it. But like, long story short, man. Now I told you my friend come up with a harebrained idea. My harebrained idea was, it's something about the summer in the shop, man. You get restless. I get restless, and I call my boy next door, my boy OJ. I said, hey man, you want to go to Mendel tonight? He was like, yeah, man, how we gonna get there? Now, it's well known that you can't hop the train because, man, you better have your track shoes on because, you know, that's a whole nother story, but, you know, you ride the train, man, that may be different, you know, mobs, gangs and stuff, man, they're gonna test you. They're gonna test you.
Well, those dynamics still exist today, but
they
even
do
more dangerous because they're shooting now. They're not just beating you up, right?
They do. That's a fact.
So those dynamics have always existed, just being territorial, right? And that goes all the way back to Africa, really. You know, we've always been territorial. But go ahead.
Yeah. And we wasn't really, you know, connected like this. So that we ain't trying to do that. So I tell them, man, just be ready. I tell him, man.
This guy.
I said 10 o'clock. Cause see, I know my dad like a book, man. You know, as kids, I'm his only son. So I'm watching my dad, right? So, you know, I'm 14, man. Sure enough, my dad goes to sleep.
I see where this is going.
I very quietly, because it wasn't necessarily out of the ordinary. It had been known growing up that I would go in my father's pockets to get his spare change. He always had spare change. So from there, I knew where his keys were.
Yeah.
I grabbed his keys, man, car in the garage, man. So really, man, if there was like video and cameras like it is now, this probably would have made, man, some America's Funny Video. But
You would have been popped.
I'd have been popped for sure. Because we put the car in neutral. I tells my boy to push. We have to push it down. Pause. We have to push it. Pause. We gotta push it down the alley before I crank the joint up. Or else they may have heard, because the bedroom, my parents' bedroom, was close to the garage. So, man, we did all that. We manually open up, man, so the garage door ain't squeaking. I done put it in neutral. We pushing it, man, down. Then, you know, I'm like, man, get in, man. We cranked that joint up, you know, man, God, you know, God bless it, had a lot of gas, fuel tank of gas. And man, I you know, now, I had not driven like to that extent, but amazingly, brother, we took like side streets all the way to Mendel. So like we like literally took, and how naive we was we took like State Street. So we going by Icky's, you know, the buildings, Joe, and it's activity out there because they outside, bro. So at stoplights, man, you know, people kind of looking, but they just, you know, doing their thing. So nobody bothered us. And man, you know, we made it, man. And I'll never forget that night, man. That night, Ron was DJing, man. And Ron
Hardy?
Yeah.
Really?
Yes, sir.
That's crazy, man.
Yes, sir. I met a girl from Longwood.
So you're telling me, what you're telling me is that as a 14-year-old, you and your partner takes your dad's car and drives from Austin and Lake to 111th and Michigan. Using side streets.
That's a fact, man. That's a fact. Man. Our guy was really on, because I remember we went through a couple cul-de-sacs. We went through a couple spots where we knew it was cracking at, you know. I'm sure we stood out like a sore thumb a little bit, you know, because I had only been twice before that, and it was with my sister. You know, but I always kind of memorized certain things, and I'd always been out south. Like we had family out south and this and that. So anyway, man, that type of us, man, being daring and brave enough to go out south and things like that. I also did a very similar move, man. My dad, rest in peace, man. I did come back, world, because I know y'all thinking, man, what did dad do to him, man, when he came back? Yeah, you know, extension cords was a thing. Man.
Oh, you got caught?
Absolutely.
You got popped. You got popped.
And you know what the indicator was?
What?
Gas.
The gas.
Yes, man.
The gas. So what made your dad immediately come to you? Because you have older sisters that could have took the car.
He didn't. He went to one of my sisters first. Man, I love you, sis. But man, she already knew what a smoking gun was, and she wasn't taking the L for me. And at first, my dad didn't believe her. He didn't believe her. But you know how parents be. Boy, don't lie to me. He's very stern and very firm, man. So, man, you know, I done broke down with the crocodile tears, man. I fessed up, man, you know. And, man, you know, he you know, that didn't happen again, man. That didn't happen.
Them tears ain't help.
No. Behavior got corrected. You know, I waited my 2 years till I got my blue slip, and then I was able to drive.
And these are some of the things that are common, though, in some of our neighborhoods coming up. Well, they were. Yeah. But they were common back then, man.
So real quick. So I ended up doing the same thing, not taking my dad's car, but we ended up, you know, like my boy ended up getting us away to Hyde Park, because Hyde Park had a place called The Point that we liked the King, and we liked the Hyde Park Theater because they reminded us the gatherings of the youth. It was pretty girls like Oak Park. So we was like, oh man, we could shoot out there. But one thing I didn't make the mistake about, my boy thought it was a little sweet, man. And I told him, Oak Park is Oak Park. Hyde Park is still part of Chicago. So what I'm trying to say is it wasn't sweet.
No, it wasn't sweet.
There's a lot of people from our communities, man, rougher communities, brothers that, don't play that, and they get down on you if you out of line, we're around. But we was able to be cool, man. We was able to be cool like that.
Yeah, man, that's fascinating. Man, boy, this man stole his.
I'm a joker.
And got popped. But man, Hyde Park and Oak Park, they do have their similarities, right? So you have a downtown Oak Park where a lot of the young people will hang at, and it did have a movie theater as well, right? Today they call what we knew as Harper Court, they call that downtown Hyde Park, and it has a movie theater as well. Now that movie theater, I assume you were talking about during our youth when the movie theater was open, and then it closed for several years.
Yeah.
Right? And then they brought it back eventually. Yeah. That was probably around the time we were in grad school when they brought it back, right?
Right.
Yeah,
right.
It opened about 15, 17 years now, right?
Yeah.
Man, but no, you're right and exact, man. The Point, Kenwood High School, of course I went to CVS, but Kenwood was always known to have some of the nicer quality, what guys consider to be more quality females, whatever that means, right? But yeah, it was no joke, man. It was some guys over there who were probably looked at as preppy guys or whatever, but Hyde Park could be a considerably dangerous place if you don't know how to move, right?
Absolutely.
Especially back then. But, I have childhood memories of going through Hyde Park, hanging out on the Point, drinking Gills. There was this beer company on 47th Street called Gills. Yeah. A lot of my friends went to Kenwood. There was significant gang culture in Hyde Park. You really had to be from the South Side to know that the gang culture in Hyde Park, man, was just different, man. It wasn't nothing to play with. They had Drexide, and then they had these other guys, and of course the Fort was not far, right? And the Fort being like the cornerstone to it all, right? Yeah. So a lot of those guys, man, were very serious guys, but you also had, many famous people that lived over there.
Yeah.
Like Ahmad Jamal, and of course, Farrakhan, and, eventually Obama. And, it was just one of those places, man, but you could always walk through there. Now, I grew up in Washington Park, right? Which is like walking distance from Hyde Park, but I would hear the guys from my neighborhood talk about how they were always going to Hyde Park to take some bikes, right? So some of the people from the neighborhood did make the mistake of thinking that Hyde Park was somewhat sweet, which it wasn't, because later on I would find out that, these guys were really targeting like some of the students, right?
Yeah.
Some of the students from
from where? Oh,
they would ride bikes, right? They've always ridden bikes, right?
But I just want to make sure the world understands, where is University of Chicago physically located?
Oh, it's in Hyde Park. It's bordering Woodlawn, but it's placed in Hyde Park, right? And so yeah, man, dynamic place coming up, right? And here's the fun fact about Hyde Park, man. Many of my friends during my teen years, their families actually own their properties. Some of them even own apartment buildings, right? Which was huge. That was really a really big thing, because that whole area from 63rd to 22nd, from the lakefront to State Street, was what is considered as the Black Belt. The Black Belt being, during the Great Migration in the 1930s, when, you know, many of our elders started to migrate from the South, you know, that was a concentrated area on the South side where Black people resided, right? Where they resided, collaborated, shared resources, and things of that nature, right? So, and I think, you know, in future episodes, man, we might have to delve a little bit deeper into the history of the Black Belt, right? And they had something similar on the West Side, right? So those were the two concentrated areas, right? The South Side, you know, the Black Belt, and then on the West Side, you know, that particular area from K-Town all the way back to North Avenue, right? That whole area was, you know, concentrated with our ancestors, man, our elders and stuff like that, man. But yeah, Oak Park, Hyde Park, man, both had pretty girls, both had $1 million homes, both had a few institutions of higher learning.
Well, Oak Park is commonly known as, and in my opinion, these are the differences that I think makes Hyde Park very unique. Oak Park, so we say Oak Park is commonly known as like Oak Park, River Forest, right? Which are two separate villages. So the institutions are in River Forest, but River Forest is actually, if you really want to get a very similar comparison, River Forest is actually a little more like Hyde Park than Oak Park, because River Forest has a high institution of higher learning. They have a college, a university, you know, Dominican, and Concordia.
Yes.
But to me, the most outstanding feature that Hyde Park has, what basically, man, gives Hyde Park to me this unique, outstanding feature, man, is access to our lakefront. And that's something that if you're a Chicagoan, if you got access to go to the lake, man, that's special beyond measures, because we had to go through, man, a lot of community. You know, now this is back in the days where if you didn't have parents who were taking you there, you might not have gotten there until you was a teenager and went to 31st Street Beach or something like that, right? But places like Evanston, Hyde Park, to me, those are more mirror representations, because they're right by the lakefront, which makes them like really amazing people. I mean, just amazing scenes.
Yeah, well, you know, you're right about that, because I remember from the time I was 11 years old, I would always be able to walk to the lakefront.
See what I'm saying?
On 53rd and Calumet, I can walk straight through Washington Park, through Hyde Park, and that's one thing about me. I've always been an explorer, right? I never minded going to a different neighborhood, and I've just never really been afraid, man. I had no room for that, right? And so yeah, as a youth, you know, who grew up poor, man, we could always go to the lakefront, man, and just hang out all day, man. See some pretty girls, you know, you can watch the water.
Yeah, man.
I've always enjoyed the water, man. Big bodies of water anyway. So that to this day, I've thought about relocating a few times, man. I've actually relocated a couple of times, but I remember living in Atlanta, man, and at one point, man, I became kind of miserable because I didn't have that access to that water, like
connection to the water, man.
Yeah. That's one of my things. I know that you know, wherever I am, if I'm going to be there for any long period of time, I would much prefer, you know, being able to access a big body of water, man. You know,
it's healing, man.
Mother and the lakes and the oceans and stuff.
Yeah, Mother Nature and stuff, man. It's just healing, man. It's good for you. It brings something out of me. It's peaceful, you know, serene, you know.
Yeah, I remember we were out on Venice Beach, man. You know.
Oh man.
We out on Venice Beach, you know, chilling, you know, doing our thing. And that was a hell of a time.
Man. That was
Cali love. So listen, man, what do you think about this first season and some of our guests that we've had, man? But what before you answer that, what I really want to ask you is, do you think you could express to our audience the importance of subscribing and hitting that notifications bell?
Look, hey world, we just been able to in my opinion, man, manifest some really unique, dynamic voices. I feel like it's extremely relatable because at the end of the day, we're giving it from a Chicago lens, right? Some really amazing, talented people in Chicago. But these are like universal human experiences, right? You know what I mean? Around, identity, education, purpose, you know what I'm saying? Challenges, setbacks. These are things that everybody go through as human beings, right? So like the way that a lot of our guests have been able to express themselves, I find it very appealing. One, we have some very talented young people, man.
Yes, absolutely.
We got some extremely talented young people, man. And I just feel that a true character of a culture, it lies in two areas. How the elders, are treated, and then how the youth are treated as well. So click, like, subscribe, to the page, because here's the thing, world, we building, bro, and like we've just, and we're saying this very humbly, but we have a track record. The internet is a real thing, man. So check us out, because us as co-facilitators and helping to shape this space, we persevered. We talked the first half of this show, the first part of this really was about the COVID pandemic and what it takes to like really overcome things, but to achieve your goals, right? So when we set our mind to something, man, we try to see it through, but we really are, it's really important for us to get feedback from y'all, right? So like, join and subscribe. We have a website, Chicago's intellectualspodcast.com. You can leave, responses, comments, feedback, ways to connect. If you would like to be a guest, all of that, right? There's ways, to integrate, your voice, if you have critiques, we take them, because we built and erected ourselves to prominence based off of that. When somebody gave me some feedback that was critical, man, I could have, got in my feelings, man, and been like, man, what the fuck are you talking about? You know what I'm saying? But does that serve, the purpose? I think, it's important to, at least offer the space for somebody to say what they got to say. And then, you ain't got to agree with it. We can agree to disagree, but I want to, let people be heard. So that's what it's about. We got some people who have rich history and viewpoints of Chicago, right? Of Black people, Black and brown people's experience in Chicago. We have man, just a lot of dynamic people, man. I really don't too much want to give it up, man, or let them know, man, where we going with this, man. But just know this, there's a saying that no matter where you are in the world, if you're from Chicago, man, you can make it anywhere.
Subscribe,
man, to find out.
Subscribe, hit that notifications bell.
Yeah.
I agree with you, man. I see that we have quickly become recognized as a platform where the unheard voices are beginning to be heard.
Absolutely.
And they deserve to be heard, right? Everybody has a story to tell. That's why Bring Some Weed, I Have a Story to Tell has become like a fan favorite, right? And all of the stories have been dynamic. They've been exceptional, right? It's been an emotional roller coaster ride, but at the same time, it's been so refreshing, enlightening, and just delightful, man. If I'm being honest, to like have a platform that our children, people our age group, and our elders enjoy.
Absolutely.
My son's grandfather called me from Detroit saying, when is the next episode?
Shout out to Detroit.
Subscribe.
L's guy.
Hit that notifications bell.
Man, so what's up?
Hey, Flizz.
What's good with it, man?
Bring some weed. I got a story to tell.
Let's do
I
it.
don't even smoke. So listen, man. I've been hanging out with my brother, man, quite often lately, right? And so anyway,
I like your brother, man. I like your brother.
His oldest son comes into town from Las Vegas and everything, and I hadn't seen him, man, in about probably 12 years, right?
Okay.
And so, you know, he's hanging out with his mother's side of the family for the first couple of days, but you know, I'm calling, his dad is calling, my mom is calling, because we understand the dynamics of Chicago and how, you know, how often you hear around the holidays that somebody has visited Chicago, whether they came home from school or they just came back to visit as they had moved to another location, and something unfortunate ended up taking place. So we're calling just to make sure this cat is okay.
Yeah.
Long story short, man, the man, you know, he'll answer his phone at certain times. Other points, he wasn't answering his phone. So I couldn't really wait to get in his ass. He ended up calling me, man, yesterday, and I went and picked him up, right? So my brother's at work when I went and picked him up, but immediately after he got off of work, he met us at my house, and we all hop in my car and we go to my mother's house. Hey, man, here's my story to tell. So my brother starts telling his son, hey, man, look, you know your mom was in a motorcycle gang. And my mother goes, it wasn't no damn gang, it was a club. So my brother starts saying, tell him the name of the club, mama. Tell him the name of the club. My mother wouldn't answer. So my brother, now he looking at me, cutting his eyes, and I'm like, man, come on, man, don't even get me in that. Then he look at me again, he's like, man, you ain't gonna tell me the name of the club? I was like, the Black Bastards. My mother goes, so if I was in a motorcycle gang, y'all was in a motorcycle gang too, because I had y'all with me. Hey, man, I don't know why my brother does that, man. And then today, I called my brother, and guess who my brother's in the grocery store with? My mama. You can't make this up, bro. You can't make this up. My mother was actually in a motorcycle gang. She really was, bro.
I love that, bro, because I feel like there are many of us who could have been in that motorcycle gang as much as we've been called, get over here, you black bash.
Yeah. Right.
You know what I'm saying? That is the coldest story, man. I love
man, my mother just trying to be a nice, gentle grandmother to her grandson, man. She wanted it to be a club.
Shout out to our mothers, man.
Shout out to our mothers. Shout out to the world. Shout out to Chicagoans all over the world. We love y'all for the support that we've received. You know, I'm the kid, Rod Allen. He is Young Flizzle. Please, please, please subscribe. We have full episodes on YouTube. We have full clips on YouTube. We have short clips on Instagram, Facebook. Subscribe to our YouTube. We're going to give you more. There's much, much more to come. Any closing remarks, Young Flizz?
Man, it's been a pleasure, man. We back at it, man. You know, world, you know, just, man, take this journey with us. You know, man, we you know, we in the words, you know, some of the old timers, man, you know, we on the path to becoming internationally known and locally accepted.
Hey, man, you can tell he's from the West Side. I'm the kid, Rod Allen. He's Young Flizz. And we're going to close for today.